Thanks for joining us for this web extra of Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. We did not get some answers in and some questions asked during the show tonight, so we'll take a few more minutes here to do this just on the web. We had started to talk about tenure. Let's get with you, Chris Caldwell, and contracts and the sort of questions about what will happen with teachers, how they'll be recognized, what happens if they shift over into municipal school district. What's your take, and what kind of discussions has the Shelby County School Board had at this point about those issues?
Well, again, those are some of the recommendations that we're considering from the TPC. One of those was to level salaries for the teachers over a 3-year period. You're having some of a disruption with the unions based on the Tennessee law to going to collaborative conferencing. And so, I would not begin to speak about the attractiveness of the municipal school districts. I think it's curious to me that some of the efficiencies that the municipalities see, and the cost of it is that not having to pay higher salaries that Shelby County does. Again, I think, as Ken mentioned earlier, the best thing for the community, the best thing for the children is to work in a negotiated way. So, that's what happens with contracts. You come to some kind of agreement, and I think the best contract is where nobody felt they got everything they wanted, and it was a true compromise.
Right. Eleanor.
Yeah. So I was in the TPC meetings when they came up with the plan, and the recommendations that they eventually handed to you. And my understanding was they worked with the staff on those, the staff of the Memphis City Schools and the Shelby County Schools. Then we get to a point where the plan is handed to the school board. The staff is going over that plan with the school board, and they were debating, like you were talking about are we really going to get that much savings from closing these schools? And so, and the TPC plan took months and months and months to put together. We're getting closer and closer and closer to August. When the schools have to open, August 2013, when are we going to have real numbers?
Well,
hard numbers.
I think you're going to see those, and I think they're going to come rapidly in the next couple of months. We have a budget process that we have to get finished. You can't do a budget until you have a staffing model. So I was in a meeting today for the internal board operations ad hoc committee, and those were some of the things that we were discussing. And then you also have the other element that policy and law determine some of the recommendations that the TPC made and whether or not they can even be enacted. But our big responsibility is to get this right. This is a huge opportunity for our community. So we know we've got to get it done. If not, we're making timelines. Believe me, I think everybody would breathe a sigh of relief if we saw all the answers. But realistically, this is hard work, and to do it right, it's going to take time. I don't want it to take any more time than it would have to for us to give it the proper diligence and consideration, because this is going to have a huge impact, not just on our community and our county, but the whole Delta region for years to come. So we've got to get this right, and I think people need to have some patience.
One of those questions on timelines and decisions is the superintendent. Where does that stand in terms of hiring a superintendent for the school district?
Well, we just last night we approved a timeline of 20 weeks. We also made a recommendation that we should engage a search firm. The proposals for that will go out, in the next, hopefully, by the end of the week, or certainly by next week, and then we'll start interviewing search firms, I would say, in the next couple of weeks.
Bill.
The goal on both sides of this, the municipal school districts as well as the unified school district, has been to keep children attending the same schools wherever possible. But what happens in the areas that are close to the borders of what had been the county school system and the city school system? Are there going to be changes there?
Well, again, I think that's what Ken was talking about. Those are things that we would hopefully negotiate for the least amount of disruption for the children and the families. Mm-hmm. We talk about the consolidation and how much that disruption that may cost, but I think the municipalities throw in, at least as much, if not they multiply the disruption.
And there's also a third element too, because there are schools in the unincorporated areas too. There's Bolton High School. So how does that work as well? I mean,
there's not any question about an environment like Bolton or Southwind High School. Southwind High School and the feeder schools are pretty self-contained in an unincorporated area. In the fall of 2013, Memphis East Schools, Shelby County Schools will come together and be one school district. Those schools will be part of that unified school district. There's no question there. The question that Chris is alluding to is in those circumstances where you have a building that is serving students who live inside a municipality and students who live in the unincorporated area, how's that all going to shake out? And I agree with Chris's answer. That is the conversation that will take place between our board and his board, between the municipal boards and the unified board. And ultimately, the unified board will have everything to do with student assignment and whether or not we educate children, whether or not they assign students to our district.
Okay, just a couple last questions here.
So
Eleanor.
the uncertainty hanging over municipal schools, you're waiting for a judge's ruling on the constitutionality on the Tennessee Constitution. Even if he finds in your favor there, you still have to wait out and see if he's going to rule in your favor on the U.S. Constitution. And so with all that uncertainty, how is that going to impact your ability to hire a superintendent? Who's going to want to step into that job not knowing if the school system will be there in a year or two?
I think that's a great question. Personally, and I think I've heard so many times in the last several months, never predict how a federal judge is going to rule. Personally, I've been through all the briefs on all the claims. I see not a scintilla of an ounce of merit to the DSEG claims, the 14th Amendment claims. The Tennessee Constitution claims, a real question. So it would be my hope that the federal judge will rule on the Tennessee constitutional questions here fairly soon, the next few weeks. When that is behind us, I would be comfortable as a member of the Germantown School Board extending an offer to a superintendent, hiring a superintendent, putting him on the payroll. If I were the superintendent taking that job, I might ask for some assurances that it'll last beyond the end of the January trial.
And we brought up the court cases. Do you want to, Chris Caldwell, offer an opinion, your sense on the two issues that are before the judge and where you think they should come down, where you think they will come down?
I think that would be a useless exercise. I think the important thing I need to do is do the work of the school board and let the judges do their work and the rest of the government officials do theirs.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for staying and doing this extra. Thank you, reporters. Thank you for joining us. Join us every Friday night and Sunday morning for Behind the Headlines. Thanks. Thank you very much. Appreciate your extra time.